The rain fell hard on the steel roofs of the alien market, cold and unkind. The streets were full of noise, shouting traders, flickering neon lights, and the sound of credits changing hands. But deep under the market, where light didn't reach, silence lived. Cal, a human mechanic with grease-stained gloves and tired eyes, had taken a wrong turn. He wasn't supposed to be here. He had come looking for a lost part, an old converter for a rusted-out shuttle. But instead of spare parts, he found something else. He heard it first, a sound so soft it barely reached his ears. A whimper, like a broken animal trying not to be heard. Cal stopped, holding his breath. He stepped over cracked pipes and broken crates, following the sound into the dark. The basement smelled like mold, blood, and rust. It was cold, damp, and forgotten. At the far end, behind an old iron gate, he saw her. A girl. No, not just a girl. An alien girl. Young, small, with thin arms wrapped around her knees. Her skin was pale silver, her hair tangled and dirty, glowing faintly in the dark like moonlight. Caught in a web, she was blindfolded with rough cloth, and metal cuffs dug into her wrists, chaining her to the wall. She flinched when Cal stepped closer, then curled tighter, as if she expected to be hit. She didn't speak, only breathed. Soft, shaky breaths that sounded like fear. Cal crouched, down slowly. "Hey," he said, voice low and gentle. "I'm not here to hurt you." She didn't reply, but one ear twitched at his voice. Her eyes were hidden, but her head turned toward him, just a little. "Who did this to you?" he whispered, looking at the scars on her arms, thin lines that glowed slightly under her skin like they had been burned into her with something hot and cruel. Still no answer. Just silence. He looked at the chains, old but thick, bolted into the wall. He didn't have the tools to break them, not here. He opened his bag and pulled out a small plasma cutter. "I'm going to get you out," he said. She flinched again, but didn't resist. Sparks flew as he cut the first chain. The smell of burnt metal filled the room. The second chain came off slower, the cutter buzzing and hissing in the silence. Finally, she was free. She didn't move, just stayed there. As if afraid to believe it, Cal reached out, touching her shoulder. She jumped, but didn't pull away. He gently helped her stand. Her legs were weak, shaking like she hadn't walked in days, maybe longer. "I'm taking you out of here," he said, wrapping his old jacket around her thin body. "We'll find help, I promise." Still, she said nothing. He led her out of the basement, step by slow step, carrying most of her weight, up through the cracks in the floor, back into the noise of the market. But he didn't take the main road. He knew eyes watched everything here, dealers, guards, worse. So he slipped through alleys and shadows, back toward his ship parked near the scrapyard. Behind them, someone had noticed. A low growl echoed in the dark behind the market. A watcher had seen what Cal had done. A signal went out, a message to the ones who had left her chained. The message was clear. She's gone. Back at the ship, Cal laid her down gently on a blanket in the corner. The room was small, filled with tools, wires, and old food wrappers, but it was warm and safe. He sat beside her, watching her chest rise and fall. Her face looked peaceful for the first time, even with the blindfold still on, even with the scars. He didn't know her name, didn't know what planet she came from, or why she had been chained beneath a market like trash. But he knew one thing. She had been thrown away like she was nothing, and he was not going to let that be the end of her story. The engine of Cal's old ship hummed softly as it floated above the junkyard lot. Rain tapped against the windows, steady and soft. Inside, the girl slept on a pile of blankets, her body curled like she was still chained even though the cuffs were gone. Cal sat across the room, fixing a broken heat coil, but his eyes kept drifting to her. He didn't know who she was or what had been done to her. All he knew was that someone had hurt her deeply. So deeply she had forgotten how to speak, or maybe stopped wanting to. She woke with a quiet gasp, not screaming, but like someone falling into the memory of a nightmare. Her hands reached out, quickly, trembling, searching for the chains, finding none. "You're safe," Cal said gently, setting his tool down. "No one's going to hurt you here." Her face turned toward his voice, the dirty blindfold still over her eyes. She didn't speak, only tilted her head. Listening like a small animal hiding in the woods, scared of the next step. Cal stood slowly and walked to her, holding out a steaming cup of warm broth. "It's just soup, nothing fancy, but it'll help." She didn't move at first. Then carefully she lifted her hands, fingers brushing the cup. Feeling the warmth, she took it slowly, bringing it to her lips, sipping without a sound. He watched her drink, wondering how long she'd gone without food. Her cheeks were thin, her arms like twigs. Her skin looked beautiful once. Silver with a soft glow, but now it was marked by scars and pain. "What's your name?" he asked softly. She paused, cup shaking slightly in her grip. Then she shook her head slowly. "You don't remember?" Cal said. "Or maybe they took it from you." She said nothing, but he saw her lip tremble, just a little. "All right," he said, not pushing. "Until you remember, I'll call you something. Something soft. Something bright." He looked at her glow, faint and fading, but still there beneath the dirt. "How about Luma?" She froze, the cup still in her hands. A soft breath escaped her lips, like the name had touched something inside her. Cal smiled gently. "Yeah, Luma. It means light. Seems right for you." For the first time, her head dipped in a tiny nod. That night, Cal made a bed for her with old blankets and pillows near the heater. She curled up there quietly, still not speaking but no longer hiding. In the middle of the night, Cal woke to a sound, soft humming, not words, just a tune, simple and sad. He looked over and saw Luma sitting up, hands on her knees, her face turned to the ceiling, humming to herself. It wasn't a song he knew, it didn't sound like anything human, but it was beautiful, and it was hers. The next morning, he began cleaning the ship a bit more, throwing out old trash, organizing parts. He tried to make it feel more like a home, not just a workshop. When he brought her a clean shirt and water for washing, she hesitated, then reached for it slowly, her fingers brushing his hand for just a second. She whispered something under her breath. It was so soft, he almost didn't hear it. "Thank you." Cal turned, surprised, but didn't show it. He just smiled and nodded. "You're welcome, Luma." He spent the day checking old medical supplies, looking through files on vision implants and tech. If she was blind, maybe. There was a way to fix it, but he had to be careful. Old tech was banned in this sector, especially the kind that could change DNA or enhance senses. And if the ones who hurt her were still looking, they'd be watching for signals. Later that evening, as Luma sat beside a heater with a blanket around her, Cal asked, "Do you know where you're from? Any family?" She said nothing for a long time. Then finally she lifted a hand and pointed to the scar on her shoulder. It was shaped like a star with sharp edges and burned into her flesh, deep and cruel. Cal's face turned serious. He had seen that mark. Once before in a forbidden document. It belonged to the Order of Purity, a radical group that believed only certain races deserved to live in the stars. They punished impure beings, especially hybrids, altered children, or any species that glowed. Luma had been punished for being born. He looked at her and said, firmly, "They didn't win. You're still here. You survived." She didn't respond, but her hands clenched the blanket tighter and her head stayed high. For now, that was enough. Cal was fixing the heat vent when he noticed it again. The glow not from the ship's panels or wires, but from her. Luma sat near the back corner of the ship, knees pulled close to her chest, head tilted toward the soft hum of the engine. Her blindfold was still tied gently around her eyes, but her skin shimmered faintly in the low light. At first, Cal thought it was just reflection. But as the night deepened and the lights dimmed, her body began to glow more clearly. Not like a lamp, but like starlight, buried under her skin, soft and broken. He walked closer, careful not to startle her. "Luma," he said quietly, "are you feeling okay?" She turned her head toward him, the glow along her arm slowly pulsing like it responded to her heartbeat. She nodded once. Slow and tired, Cal crouched beside her. "You're glowing again." Her breath caught. and she curled her arms around herself as if ashamed. "No, hey," Cal said quickly. "It's not bad. It's beautiful, really." She didn't answer, but her body relaxed just a little, the glow calming down to a gentle flicker. He paused, then asked softly, "Do you know why it happens?" She stayed silent, fingers tracing a line across her arm. Cal leaned in and saw it clearly now. Scars, dozens of them, shaped like lines, curves, and strange symbols. Each one seemed to glow faintly, not from light, but from something inside. Something alive. I think it's more than scars," Cal said almost to himself. "This might be tech or genetics or something else." He stood up and pulled an old scanner from the shelf. It wasn't advanced, but it could pick up energy signatures. He asked gently, "Can I scan your arm? It won't hurt. I promise." Luma didn't speak, but slowly stretched, her arm out toward him. He turned on the scanner and passed it over her skin. The small screen buzzed and blinked, showing patterns Cal had never seen before. Energy threads moving beneath her skin. Not mechanical, but not natural either. "These marks," he muttered. "They're not just burns, they're fused with you. They respond to stress, emotion, maybe even memory." Luma's lips trembled, and finally she whispered, "They made me glow. Before they blinded me." Cal froze, heart heavy. "The people who hurt you? The ones who locked you up?" She nodded, just once. "They said, 'Light belonged to the pure,'" she said slowly, the words broken and raw. "But I was born wrong." Cal's hands tightened on the scanner. He'd heard of such groups, cults that believed beauty, light, and power should belong to only one kind of being. They called others impure, and they punished them for being different. "What they did wasn't right," he said, voice firm. "You're not wrong, Luma, they are." She turned her head toward him, lips parted like she wanted to believe that, but couldn't. Cal stood and crossed to the old metal locker near the pilot seat. He opened it and pulled out a dusty file marked Novatech Vision Implant Project. It was a failed prototype. Banned in this system, but powerful. It had once been designed to restore sight through neural patterns and light pulses, perfect for someone like Luma. He brought the file back and sat beside her. "I might have something that could help. It's risky old tech, not fully tested, but it might restore your sight." Luma sat still, silent. Her fingers gently touched the edge of her blindfold. "I don't know if it'll work," Cal said. "But if you want to try, I'll do everything I can to make it safe." She didn't answer right away, but then her voice came, soft as falling snow. "I want to see again." Cal nodded. "Then we'll try. Not tonight. But soon. I'll need to modify it for your neural pattern, connect it to your internal light signature." She tilted her head. "The light is mine?" "Yes," Cal said firmly. "Not theirs, not something to be ashamed of. It's yours." That night, Luma didn't sleep on the floor. She moved closer to the small cot Cal had made near the heater. Her fingers brushed his jacket for comfort, and for the first time she didn't flinch. But far away, in a hidden room behind a blood-red curtain, someone else was watching. A hooded figure stood before a glowing map, eyes fixed on a blinking dot. An energy signal once thought extinguished, now burning faintly on the edge of the city. The voice was cold, ancient, and cruel. "The impure one lives," it said, "and the human has taken her." A second voice replied, "Shall we send hunters?" The leader's eyes narrowed. "Yes, but keep her alive. Her light belongs to us." The wind howled over the ruins of Sector 9, broken towers standing like skeletons under the orange sky. Cal tightened the straps of his backpack and helped Luma climb over the fallen wall. Her steps were slow, careful and silent, though she still couldn't see. "This place used to be a research city," Cal whispered, "before the war turned it into dust." Luma clutched his jacket as they moved deeper into the ruins. The blindfold still covered her eyes, but something about this place made her skin prickle. She could feel echoes here, not sounds, but memories. They reached the center of the ruins, where a circular building lay half buried under rubble. Cal found the hidden hatch beneath a broken tile. He pulled it open, revealing a narrow staircase leading into darkness. "You sure this is the place?" Luma asked quietly. Cal nodded, then realized she couldn't see. "Yeah," he said. "This was a Novatech lab. It's where the old implants were tested before everything went wrong." They climbed down into the black. The air was thick with dust, and the smell of rusted metal filled their lungs. Cal turned on his wrist light, the beam slicing through cobwebs and shadows. Old machines stood frozen in time, screens cracked, wires dangling like vines. "It's so quiet," Luma whispered. "Hasn't been touched in years," Cal said. "Which is a good thing, means the implant might still be here." They moved carefully through the lab, stepping over fallen chairs and shattered glass. Luma's hand brushed the walls, her fingers trailing over old warnings in faded alien script. Suddenly, a low hum echoed through the floor. Cal stopped, shining his light ahead. A single room at the end of the hall was still powered. Barely. A backup generator blinked red in the corner. They entered the room. In the center sat a pod-shaped table with a sleek black case on top. Cal opened it slowly. Inside was a silver implant shaped like a butterfly wing, with soft glowing threads that pulsed faintly in the dark. "This is it," he whispered, eyes wide. "The Lumina model built for neural light fusion. It connects to bioglow signals like yours." Luma stepped closer, drawn to it without seeing it. "It feels warm," she said softly. Cal nodded. "That's your body reacting. It's made for someone like you." She reached out, her fingers hovering over the device but not touching it. "What if it hurts me again?" she whispered. "What if I lose everything?" Cal placed a hand on her shoulder. "You've already survived worse, but this time, you're not alone." She stood there a moment longer, then slowly removed her blindfold. Her eyes were pale, damaged, but not lifeless. He saw hope buried deep in them behind all the pain. "Let's do it," she said, voice trembling. "I want to see again." Cal helped her lie down on the pod. He cleaned the skin around her eyes, then connected the implant wires to the interface port. His fingers shook slightly. This was dangerous tech, banned for a reason. He pressed the activation button. A soft hum filled the room. The implant glowed, and tiny threads reached out, connecting. Gently to her temples, Luma gasped, her back arching slightly, then settling again. The glow around her body flickered, then surged. The scars along her arms and back lit up like stars, pulsing in rhythm with the implant. "Luma," Cal called. "Can you hear me?" She didn't answer. Her hands were clenched, her breathing fast. Inside her mind, light was flooding back, not just images, but color, shapes, fragments of the past, a sky she had forgotten, a mother's face, a blue flower by a pond. Then everything went white. Suddenly the room fell silent. The glow stopped, the implant dimmed. Cal ran to her side. "Luma, are you okay?" Her eyes fluttered open, not pale now, but glowing faint gold. She blinked, slowly, then turned toward him. I see you," she said. Cal froze, stunned. You can see?" Luma nodded slowly, tears slipping down her cheeks. "Not perfect, but yes, I can see light. I can see your face." He laughed, almost in disbelief. "You did it, Luma. You really did it." She reached up and touched his face gently, as if confirming he was real. "You brought me here. You gave me back more than sight." Before Cal could answer, a noise echoed from above. Metal footsteps, voices speaking in a cold, ancient tongue. "They found us," Cal whispered, pulling her up, "and we have to move now." Luma stood, still unsteady but stronger than ever. The glow from her body wasn't fear now. It was fire, burning quietly beneath her skin. "No more hiding," she said, her eyes glowing in the dark. "Let them come." The sky was dark, but the stars had never looked brighter. Luma stood at the edge of Cal's ship, her bare feet touching the cold metal floor. Her hands gripped the railing tightly, and her glowing eyes stared into the night sky like it was the first time she had ever seen it, because for her it was The implant wasn't perfect, but it worked. She could see light now, stars twinkling, clouds drifting, Cal's face when he smiled at her, and most of all, she could see her own hands glowing softly in the dark. Tears fell silently from her eyes, but they weren't from pain anymore. They were from wonder. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "I forgot the sky had stars." Cal stood beside her, watching her more than the sky. "You used to see them before?" She nodded slowly. "When I was little, before they blinded me, my mother used to point at the stars and tell me stories about each one." He didn't speak. He didn't want to ruin the moment. For a girl who had been trapped in darkness for years, even one star was a miracle. But miracles don't come without a price. Suddenly, the scanner on Cal's wrist blinked red. He glanced down. Multiple life forms approaching fast. Not animals, not scavengers, but armed soldiers. "They're here," he said sharply. "Get inside." Luma turned, her new vision blurry at the edges but sharp enough to see movement on the horizon. Dark shapes marching through the ruined street. Glowing with the same energy the cult once used to mark her, the Order of Purity had come to reclaim their property. Inside the ship, Cal powered up the shields. His hands flew across the controls, rerouting old systems and activating defenses he hadn't used in years. Luma stood beside him, steady now. Her voice was calm but cold. "They won't stop. They believe I'm a mistake, something that should have been erased." "You're not a mistake," Cal said. "You're light. You're proof that they're wrong." Outside, the cult soldiers spread out, dark cloaks billowing in the wind. Their leader stepped forward, tall, pale, with metal wires running down his jaw. His voice came through a speaker, sharp like broken glass. "Return the impure one, and we will let the human live." Cal scoffed. "Kind offer, but I'm not buying." The cult leader raised a hand, and the soldiers aimed weapons powered by ancient energy. "You protect a creature cursed by false light? Her glow is an abomination." Inside the cockpit, Luma's fingers trembled, not with fear, but with something else. Something deep inside her that had been sleeping for years. "I was cursed," she said softly, her voice echoing in the small space. "Because I was born glowing, because I didn't look like them, because I survived their cage." She stepped forward, past Cal toward the ramp door. He grabbed her arm. "Luma, wait. You don't have to face them alone." She looked back at him, her eyes bright with light and courage. "I'm not alone anymore. I have sight, I have a name, and I have you." The ramp lowered slowly. Wind rushed in. The cult soldiers raised their weapons, but Luma stepped into the open, glowing like a fallen star in the middle of darkness. The soldiers hesitated. Some of them lowered their guns, confused by the sight of her. Not broken, not blind, but strong. Standing tall, her scars lit like constellations. "I'm not coming with you," Luma said loudly. "I am not yours to burn, or chain, or shame." The cult leader snarled. "You were made wrong. Your light was stolen from the stars." Luma shook her head. "No, it was always mine. You just tried to take it." Behind her, Cal activated a hidden turret under the ship. It locked onto the cult formation with a soft, mechanical click. The soldiers stepped back, unsure what to do. The cult leader raised his hand again, but before he could give the order, Luma's glow surged. Her scars pulsed brighter than ever, blinding light pouring from her body, washing over the battlefield. The soldiers screamed, stumbling back. Their weapons shorted out, their eyes overwhelmed by the radiance. Luma fell to her knees, gasping, the glow fading slowly. Her body shook, drained, but still alive. Cal ran to her, catching her before she fell fully. "You did it," he said. "You stopped them." She smiled weakly. "I saw them. I saw their faces when they looked at me like I was a person, not a thing." Cal looked up at the scattered cult soldiers, now retreating, broken and afraid. The stars above shimmered brighter than ever, and Luma, even with her head resting against his chest, whispered, "I saw the stars again, Cal, and they saw me." Smoke still hung in the air, rising from broken weapons and shattered hopes. The cult soldiers had vanished into the shadows, dragging their wounded with them. Defeated but not gone. Cal stood outside the ship, scanning the ground for signs of more movement. His jaw was tight, fists clenched. He knew they would return. Inside, the ship. Luma sat on the floor, wrapped in a blanket. Her body was weak, but her eyes still glowed faintly, not from fear, but from strength. She had faced the ones who blinded her, and this time, they looked away. But she wasn't done yet. As Cal walked in, Luma turned her head. "They'll come back," she said quietly. "They never stop." "I know," Cal replied, kneeling beside her. "But now we fight on our terms." She looked down at her glowing hands. "They used my light to hurt me, to shame me. I want to use it to protect others, like you protected me." Cal hesitated, then reached for the old data crystal he had found months ago. It held forbidden files, blueprints, locations, secrets about ancient tech the Order tried to erase. "There's something here," he said. "A place where they made people like you, where they tested light blood genetics." Luma's eyes widened. "More like me?" "Maybe," Cal said. "Or maybe just old wreckage, but if there's even a chance someone else survived, we have to look." She nodded, her fingers tightening around the blanket. "Then let's go, before they strike again." They launched. The ship that night slicing through the dark clouds and heading toward the mountains north of the dead wastes. The coordinates led them to a hidden canyon, a scar in the planet's surface, where light once lived and died. The place was silent, the ground cracked and lifeless, but beneath the canyon wall they found it, a dome-shaped building half buried in rock, sealed by thick metal doors covered in dust and old warnings. "Authorized life forms only," the sign read, letters scratched. By time Cal placed his palm against the scanner, nothing happened. Then Luma stepped forward, her fingers glowing faintly. She touched the scanner. It came to life. The doors creaked open with a deep groan, revealing a long hallway filled with ancient lights and broken cables. Luma stepped inside, her steps slow but steady. Cal followed. Weapon in hand, the walls were lined with tanks, empty, shattered, but one was still sealed. Inside floated a small body, curled up and glowing softly, not dead. But asleep? "A child," Luma whispered, tears in her eyes. "She's like me." Before they could react, the lights flickered red, and the room began to shake. A voice filled the air, cold and mechanical. Intruders detected. Purification. Protocol active. Turrets dropped from the ceiling and drones began to wake, their eyes glowing the same cruel red the cult used. Cal fired at the nearest drone, blasting it into sparks. "We've got company!" Luma stepped in front of the tank, shielding the sleeping girl inside. Her body lit up, brighter than ever before. The scars along her arms and back burned like fire. Her voice rang out across the lab. "No more death!" With a sudden flash, her glow exploded outward, a wave of blinding light rushing through the corridor. The machines shorted out, their lights dying in an instant. The walls shook, but this time, not from violence, but from power finally released. The energy from her body awakened something deeper in the building. Old systems, hidden memories, and data once erased. Screens flickered on, showing recordings of children with glowing skin, scientists studying them, then cult members taking over, turning the place from sanctuary into prison. Luma dropped to her knees, exhausted. "They tried to turn us into weapons," she whispered, "but we were never meant to destroy. We were meant to heal, to light up the dark." Cal rushed to her, holding her steady. "You saved us again," he said, voice shaking. "You saved her." The tank hissed open, and the small girl inside floated gently into Cal's arms. Her eyes opened slowly, glowing, confused, scared, but alive. Luma reached out, brushing the girl's cheek. "You're safe now, outside." The sky broke open as the storm clouds scattered. Stars poured down from above, filling the canyon with light. And from a distance, those watching, rebels, exiles, wanderers, saw something impossible. A girl standing beneath the stars, glowing like the dawn, and they whispered across the galaxy. The canyon was quiet. No more machines, no more weapons, only wind, starlight, and the soft hum of energy returning to the earth. Luma stood beneath the open sky, her arms wrapped around the glowing child they had rescued. The girl's head rested on her shoulder, warm and safe. Her eyes blinked slowly, still adjusting to a world she had never truly seen. Cal stood a few steps away, watching both of them. His hands were bruised, his jacket torn, but his face carried peace. For the first time in years, he wasn't running from anything. He was standing beside something worth fighting for. "She's stable," Cal said softly. "That pod kept her alive for years. Her body's weak, but she'll recover." Luma nodded. "She doesn't have a name." "Then give her one," Cal said. "Like I gave you." Luma looked down at the child's small, glowing fingers. "Stella," she whispered. "It means star." The little girl smiled in her sleep, as if hearing, "They buried the last of the old tech deep in the canyon." Cal didn't want the Order to ever find it again. He collapsed the main entrance with a controlled blast, covering the lab in rock and dust. Nothing would come out and nothing would go in. Then they left. The journey back to the city took 2 days, but this time it felt different. Luma no longer walked with her head down. She walked beside Cal, with Stella resting on her back, wrapped in a blanket. Her vision was clearer now, her body stronger. Her scars still glowed, but now they looked like symbols of survival, not shame. When they reached the outer zones, the word had already spread. Whispers of the girl who glowed like the moon, the human who defied the Order, and the child with light in her veins. People stepped out of their homes, refugees, ex-slaves, broken families, and stared in silence. As Luma passed, she didn't hide anymore. She met their eyes, and for many of them it was the first time they saw someone who looked like them. Walking proud, a man stepped forward from the crowd holding a small child. "You were the one," he said. "The story, it's real?" Luma nodded. "I was blind and broken, but he helped me see again." Cal lowered his head, a bit awkward. "I just gave her a chance. She did the rest." The man looked at the girl on Luma's back. "And this one?" "She was forgotten," Luma said. "But now she'll be remembered." A woman in the crowd stepped forward, then another. They offered food, warm clothes, a safe place to rest. People who had lost everything found hope again, just by seeing her. That night, they stayed in the old rebel quarter. Fires lit the alleys. Music played softly in the distance. Stella sat in Cal's lap, giggling for the first time. Luma sat across from them, smiling. She had never laughed before, not like this now. Laughter came like sunlight through broken glass. "I never thought I'd be here," she said quietly. "Not in the light. Not free." Cal leaned back. "You were always meant to shine, Luma. They tried to break you because they were afraid of what you could become." She looked up at the stars, her voice calm. "I want to help others now, the ones still hiding, still afraid, still chained." Cal nodded slowly. "Then let's build something. A place for the forgotten, a home for those who glow in the dark." And so they did. Weeks passed, then months. Together, they found survivors. Children like Stella, teens with scars, old ones with quiet stories and quiet pain. Luma led them, not as a warrior, but as a light. Cal built homes, taught them how to repair machines, fly ships, survive. They became a family of misfits, held together by a girl who once had no name. And in the sky above their new home, they placed a signal tower that pulsed with a soft glow. Not for war, not for warning, but for hope. Every time a ship passed overhead, the beacon flashed, a message played in hundreds of languages. "You are not alone. The light you carry is not wrong. Come home." Soon, the galaxy knew her story. They didn't call her broken anymore. They called her Luma, the girl who lit up the sky,